Hello, Deborah. Go ahead and introduce yourself and we'll just kick it off.
So I help my clients to leverage LinkedIn and possibly, if not all of you guys should be at LinkedIn at this point, but I help them to leverage LinkedIn to attract a client base they're pretty much pre-sold on partnering or doing business with them.
That's wonderful. So when you say pre-sold, what does that mean?
That means just like I hate having to try to attempt to sell someone because I don't believe in that, they have already pretty much made up their mind that they're ready to work with you by the time they get on a call with you. They just have to confirm that you are the person that you are and to see how you can help them. But there's nothing that you don't have to convince anyone because they've seen your presence. They see you as an authority, so they're ready to work with you.
I ask you that question intentionally because I really want the audience to understand that. Because when we say pre-sold, for especially new entrepreneurs, they don't really understand, but we know what that means because we really believe and work on creating a relationship, right?
Right.
So that's part of what you do with LinkedIn, you create those connection and relationships. And I do something similar, with my ideal clients where we have this Facebook group. We connect with them, we connect through emails, and we create that relationship. So when we have an offer, they are pre-sold, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Whether it's buying your offer or just partnering to work with you. So that's why I wanted to kind of let you go through that explanation a little more. So those who are really new to this connection or relationship marketing, they understand what we're talking about.
Mhm.
So why did you decide to work on LinkedIn?
So here's the interesting thing. And it involves imposter syndrome and all of that other beautiful stuff that we might experience, but we don't know what's going on. So before I became, expert on the online space, I worked for 20 years in marketing with a few companies, and I have, all the accolades that people typically talk about. But when I got online and I saw these other people showing up as experts, it was intimidating, right? So and I don't have the backstory that we typically hear. I don't have a lot of those things. So between seeing people who are already confident in what they do and not necessarily knowing how to relate to the online space, I experienced imposter syndrome. But there's a lot of things that tend to wake me up in life and in business, probably just like everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So initially, I was a social media manager helping clients on Instagram. And, there's all these coaches in the online space. And one day this woman said to me, she was like, I've seen you on LinkedIn. Well, she hasn't seen me on LinkedIn. She saw my LinkedIn profile. She said, I saw you on LinkedIn and you're not a social media manager. You could help people to grow their business. And then, of course, I was like, no, I can't. So incidentally, I actually went onto LinkedIn just to update my profile because if you guys remember, and some people still see it this way, LinkedIn was all about recruiters and resumes. So the
Right.
only thing I had on LinkedIn was my, uploaded quote unquote resume. It was done a little bit
Mm-hmm.
differently. Went on there, I updated my profile, updated a few things to say that I've moved from employee to entrepreneur. And within 3 days, I had two people reach out to me and they said they wanted help with a marketing plan. And I was like, okay, what's going on here? I thought this was about resumes and recruiters. And then I discovered this whole world of business owners. They're amazing at what they do, but they just don't know how to market themselves. So I was still experiencing imposter syndrome, kind of hanging out on Facebook, hanging out on Instagram. And then someone else reached out and I started to now use LinkedIn for business. I didn't think about teaching it or helping people with LinkedIn. I grew like a really strong personal brand over on LinkedIn and people started to reach out and they're like, okay, all of a sudden, I don't think I really blew up, but they said, you grew your personal brand really quickly. Can you show me how to do that? And at the same time, so at that point I had mastered, pretty much I knew how to use LinkedIn for business. And I started to see these experts again step up, but they were just sharing just bad information. So if you don't know, you don't realize just really bad information.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what motivated me, encouraged me, because I'm not going to complain about it. I'm just going to show up bolder, and I'm going to share my truth so someone doesn't get either duped by that person or they can at least question the things they're putting out because what I'm saying is a little bit different. I was just telling a prospective client a few minutes ago, I was like, and it's worked out pretty well because they actually believe what I'm sharing. So that's how I pretty much started online. I love it.
Well, you are the expert, so they better listen. Now, my point is, or to what you have said, the bad messaging, LinkedIn works totally different
Yeah,
from the other social media platforms. Even though people are using it to grow their business, it works completely differently. So you can't use the same strategy that you're using on other platforms on Instagram. So can you give some examples of what bad, connection or a bad post or bad messages? Because for people who have not been on LinkedIn, this may sound a little strange, especially if they perceive that it's just another platform.
absolutely. Yeah, what I see people do the most on LinkedIn more than anywhere else, and you can tell almost immediately, and it's probably things they take from Facebook. They take things from Instagram with the flat lay images, and then they put it on LinkedIn. But I can tell that it's an Instagram post because they have about 20 to 25 hashtags.
Oh no.
So yeah, the difference is on LinkedIn, maybe you have about 4 or 5 hashtags. You don't want it, like there's so many different things that come up as spammy on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
So spammy equals using a whole bunch of hashtags. Spammy equals tagging a whole bunch of people. Spammy equals kind of the same thing where I think initially when LinkedIn got really big with the Facebook group or the Facebook crowd, there were people teaching courses and they had scripts on how to connect on LinkedIn. The problem is when people are given scripts, um, they don't make it their own. So you had
Mm.
about, you had like 50 or so people sending people in mass. You probably heard about, and I'll tell you guys if you didn't hear about it, but you had people sending in mass to the same people, the same exact script. The outreach strategy is not the same on LinkedIn either because it's about relationships.
Right.
So just recently, and I haven't seen it happen yet, but I'm hearing about it more and more. Any time you are allowed to, if you have premium, especially, it's a different version, a paid version. You are allowed to send even 100 connection requests a day.
Hmm.
Sometimes that's impossible. Like, how can you possibly connect with 100 people with
That's too
very
much.
like messages? I think there were enough people complaining about it, and unfortunately, LinkedIn has lost a lot of like executives don't even log in anymore because their box is full of spam. So now
Hmm.
LinkedIn has limited it to you can only send 100 messages per week.
Per
It
week,
might be
yeah.
even shorter for some people, but yeah, they're really cutting down on a lot of the stuff going on.
Yeah, I think they have to do that to keep the integrity of the platform
Right,
because I think it was intended for more professional connections rather than business or sales connections because we know it, right? We've been in business.
right,
When it comes to business outreach, it ends up being too spammy at one point because everybody's trying to grab as many leads as possible. Whereas when it was professional relationship, it was just authentic connections. Either, recruiters, they see your resume and they feel like you might be the right fit and they can reach out to you.
right.
But there wasn't this crazy outreach of people just trying to message you because you know, they look at you as a lead. So I can definitely understand. Now, they do also restrict your account if you try to exceed those 20 or 100 messages per week or 20 messages per day, right? Or connections.
It probably depends on how often you've been breaking rules. LinkedIn's not really as bad as Facebook, where Facebook will, if you're sending too many messages, it will just turn you off. LinkedIn will warn you several times. So if you've done things like that before, like some people are like, my account got shut down, I don't know why. You probably do because LinkedIn has warned you several times. They will also restrict or, ban you if you have more than one profile because, like you said, they want to really keep the integrity of the platform. And some people have been creating multiple profiles, some unknowingly because you forgot that you created one, but they've created multiple profiles just to have different businesses. But for me, when I'm talking to people in general, there's a lot of opportunity on LinkedIn and not a lot of people taking advantage of it.
Right.
So at this point, there's about 760 million registered users on LinkedIn. as I see LinkedIn grow and they're looking to become like this media platform, I'm not sure if you remember back in the days when we used to go into the office, people would have their Wall Street Journal dropped at the front of their, either at the elevator or the front of the office.
Yeah.
LinkedIn is creating this whole platform where they're the media. So you don't have to go and look at the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal. They have hired hundreds of journalists to share data, to share information where we have opportunities. So, with 760 million registered users, maybe 40% of those people log on, active users. LinkedIn says if you've logged in once a week to every 3 weeks, you're considered active. So out of those, the 40% that log in, maybe 10% share content. So the great thing about it, there are like billions of pieces of content that goes across the feed on a weekly basis. But not a lot of people, it's the same people sharing it. So it's similar to when you have a Facebook community, there's always those few 20 or 30 people who are active, if we're lucky, right?
I know.
Maybe we have 10 people who are active. That's the same on
Active.
LinkedIn. And now you have the opportunity to be highly visible in front of the right people. And if you're connected with the right network, then you're always going to be inside of their feed. That's where the magic lies to me.
Gotcha. You see, I'm one of those people who signed up for multiple profiles because I thought you're supposed to have one for your personal profile and then a different profile for your business.
Right.
So I did do that. And then later on, I learned that no, for your business, especially for the coaching business, they're like, you don't really need to create a new account for it. You can just use your personal profile, have it in the profile description, what you do, and that's it. I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't know. But and then I think by then, LinkedIn probably restricted my account at one point, but I don't know how to get it reactivated. So I need to figure out a way to do that.
Yeah, you typically, but do they restrict both your main account, you mean? Because they found out.
The main one, the one that I've had for more than 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
If you can get in contact, because when they first tell you you're restricted, they want you to upload your driver's license or something.
I did.
Oh, well, I would go on Twitter then and try to reach out to them there.
Oh, you reach out to them through Twitter.
You don't. You reach out. LinkedIn has its own help desk where you can send a message, but not everyone has that access. But if you go on Twitter, like for me, I'm not complaining to a company. I'm going on Twitter. Their customer service team can handle it.
Oh, I see.
That's why I say Twitter, because that means their only job is to make sure you're happy, right? The people on Twitter, the people who are in charge of those accounts. LinkedIn has its own help desk, but if you can't find it, I would just say go on Twitter. Yeah, there's no reason. How long has it been restricted?
I think a couple of weeks.
Oh, that's not bad. Okay, that's not bad.
How long does it usually take them to fix
Less than 7 days, it should reissue.
It should be, okay.
Yeah.
But these are great points, right? When people listen to this, they know exactly what to do and what not to do. And then if this is, if this was to happen to them, they would know how to handle it. So I'm glad we brought that topic up. So it is definitely helpful. What is your best tip for people who are trying to either grow their personal branding or they just want to create connection with either other like-minded people or just even prospects? What are your tips?
Everything's going to go back to your profile. I say that about 70 to 75% of the business is done on your profile. So you can have the most amazing content. You can be reaching out to a lot of people, but ultimately people are going to be looking at your profile. If it doesn't speak to who you are and build credibility and position you as an expert, then they're probably not even going to be interested in having conversation. And then a lot of people, that's another way that you get restricted. If you try to connect with someone and they continue, different people press ignore, LinkedIn will think you're spamming people. So you want to make sure you have your profile optimized. And not only that, positioned, that make sure it positions you as an expert. So that means things like you're not really talking in the third person. You don't want it to sound like a resume. You don't want to make it about you. You want to make sure that it's solution focused versus me. So those, more than anything, if you do anything else, someone may have heard about you and they Google you and LinkedIn's going to come up. I would say make sure your profile is updated.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Great tip. Great tip. Is there anything that you would like to share with the audience as far as LinkedIn, and then definitely share where they can find you
Yeah,
and maybe talk
definitely.
about, what you do so people can reach out to you.
Definitely. Yeah, I think so here's what stops a lot of people from not only using LinkedIn but just to post in general. It's there's a fear behind it. It's very intimidating.
Hmm.
What I realized, and like I mentioned before, what motivated me is that I realized there were a segment of people who actually needed what I had to offer, especially, we saw the movie. I don't know if you saw the movie Human Hidden Figures. Like,
Hmm.
there's a lot of people who are extremely brilliant, but they're standing on the sidelines. So for me, and also for you, and anyone within your community, it's our responsibility to really step up and be that example that they need so the wrong people are not coming in their pathway. So I know that there's some fear and intimidation behind LinkedIn, but it's surprising when you realize that there are people who are like, I've had someone who he reached out to me. I made the mistake of looking up to him or looking him up, and he had an MBA from Harvard, and I'm like, I was so intimidated. I'm like, what am I going to do to help
Wow.
him? They're good at what they do. They're not good at what you do. So I had
Hmm.
to realize that. So I think it's ego based. When we tend to get scared or we tend to be intimidated by something, that's all our ego. And it's coming from, not all of ego selfish, but it's coming from a selfish place when we're only thinking about our nervousness versus helping someone else. But yeah, I would love to, if anyone has questions about LinkedIn, they can always reach out to me. Find me on Facebook. I also have a Facebook community. It's called the LinkedIn Money Secrets. They can do
Mm.
hashtag the LinkedIn Black Belt and find me on LinkedIn also.
Wonderful, wonderful. And then they can find you in our group right here as well, so because you're our group member.
Oh,
So
fab.
it's awesome. It's so great connecting with you, and I'm definitely gonna chat with you more because I am interested in building, my connection in LinkedIn. But my fear, like you said earlier, it is a little intimidating.
Yeah.
And number two, some of us are still working in our full-time job and, building our business. And sometimes you get worried about just lack of time.
Hmm.
If I get on this platform, will I have the time for it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What are your suggestions as far as like tips, even to like connect in a smaller level? And instead of just, having a profile but not being on it at all, but
Right.
just at least having a little bit of traction in there so you can kind of build, your connections slowly.
Yeah, and that's why I'm all about making sure that you position your brand as someone who's sought after, so you don't necessarily
Hmm.
have to do all the work. So tips, and if you don't use LinkedIn a lot, it's going to be harder to explain, but you want to make sure your profile is optimized
It is.
because LinkedIn within itself is a search engine. So every single day, someone's searching for something you have to offer. I have that master class coming up, and I'm doing 25 minutes a day on LinkedIn. But some of the tips are, once you do your profile, that's one and done. You don't have to worry about that. Putting out content, even if you just do it twice a week, that's going to increase your visibility. They're going to go back to your profile. Engaging with other people on their posts, they're going to go back to your profile. Those are the only two things that I would say to do maybe 3 times a week, and you're good.
Gotcha.
It takes less than 25 minutes to put out a piece of content, then I would say engage with at least 3 people.
That's wonderful. So go ahead and send us the link to your registration or to your workshop. We'll
Okay.
share it in the group. I'm sure, there will be a lot of people that could benefit from those lessons because I know we're all trying to grow our business. So
Yeah.
LinkedIn definitely has become, one of the best places to create connection with your prospects. So just send it to me and we'll go ahead and put it in the comment and in the caption so people can, try to attend your workshop if they're able to. So this has
Fabulous.
been wonderful, to connect with you and to chat about LinkedIn and even getting to know you more. I know we are in the same, coaching community, but getting this opportunity just to have, the chance to chat one on one, it's
Mhm.
always wonderful. I love to connect, with people, and most of all, I love to collaborate with people. And
Mhm.
I talk about this in my community, in my Facebook group, like I tell everyone, just engage with everyone within community, because it's like a private space where you can ask each other on collaborating or interviewing each other, or even taking on a project together, because it's like a pool of people that are looking for the same opportunity like you. So
Right.
I know we utilize that a lot in UE space, where everybody asking for collaboration and things like that. And I'm trying to bring that here. So
Mm.
hopefully I'll be successful in doing that. And I want everyone to see that these, interviews came about because we are in the same space and we ask each other, hey, I would like to interview you, and vice versa. So it's a great way not only to learn from that other person, but just creating the opportunity to even know you, and then let other people in my community know about you, right?
Right.
This is something they probably did not think about, but having this kind of opportunity to hear someone who is doing it and who has done it and getting the tips, I think it's a wonderful thing. So we should definitely continue to collaborate, in other spaces, and anybody who has different expertise, just bring it on, and we can always learn from one another. Just like you said, the person who has an MBA, they don't have the skill that you do,
Exactly.
right?
And what I learned that from successful people, they're not trying to figure it out on their own. That's too much
Mm-mm.
time. They'd rather
Right.
just reach out, get the help, save themselves the tens of thousands of dollars in time that their time is worth. So yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
should all reach out to people who are experts in that area. We cannot be experts in everything. So I do what I'm good at and stay in that lane, and I reach out to somebody else who's experts on all the other needs that I have. So I think that the universe works out really well that way, right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
really does. So that was such a great time. Deborah, I enjoyed having you, and hope, we'll have you again. I'm sure LinkedIn continues to evolve. So as new, strategies come about, let me know. We can have another session like this. I like to learn, and I'd love for my community to learn as well, as, things develop and evolve. So this is
Right.
great. I'm so glad to have you, and we're going to connect even more. So, you know, keep an eye for my message.
Just the beginning. Thanks so much for
Just
having
the
me,
beginning,
Sarah.
exactly.
Right.
Of course, of course. Thank you so much for coming in, and good to see you again, and look forward to connecting with you again.